ready, Freddy. Hello, this is Terry from Fabric Junction in Sturgis, South Dakota, and today we're going to make a springtime placemat. And as you can see, I found some very fun fruit, matched them up with what we'll call a solid to create an interesting placemat to spruce up your summer, spring or summer. To start with, at the beginning, had all the instructions on the sheet. You can go back and pause it on all your cuts. So the cuts are real simple, a few squares, rectangles, and now we're ready to make our block. And what we're after is to make this style of block. And it consists of an hourglass, flying geese, and a rectangle. So to make our hourglass, we take our light, I use the light, and I draw a line. I tend to use pencil, but any of your fabric marking tools will work. This is a Fonson Porter seam marker. So I mark my line on both sides, which I've already done. So there's a little light line there. I go to my machine, I line it up, and now I want to stitch either on that line or just to the seam allowance side of it. It's whichever you're comfortable. Most of the time I stitch right on that line because I try to make it a really fine line, not a big thick line. So we'll stitch. I grab my next one, and I'm going to do the same thing. And just go that one past, line it up. When I get to the end, I take it, turn, pull my thread a little bit so I have room, line it up, and go again. Okay, now we'll cut it apart. Now I'm going to only work on one, but you get the idea. When I sew, just do continuous stitching, because I'll be switching to doing just one so we can get the square. Cut it. You could cut with your scissors or with your rotary cutter. Press to the dark. Once you have that done, you take one, and we need to draw another line. So again, I get my marker, I put it in the corner, I get the little line through the other corner. I mark my line from the inside out because I don't want to distort anything. Now I line it up with this one, opposite sides. I line up my corners. The most important part is right here in the center. You want to get those two to butt up against each other. So once you have it kind of lined, and you can see not everything lines up just absolutely ideal, but the most important part is right here. And to double check that, you can always, if you can do it by feel, great. But put a pin, your finger, something right there at that stitch line, open it up and see if those are going to cross correctly. If it is, you know you have it lined up, and now you're ready to sew. one side, turn it, and do our other side. Again, once we have it sewn, cut it from point to point, and then we're going to press. Now with that, we've made two beautiful hourglasses. I'm going to set that one aside for later. Next step, cut off your dog ears. And place it. I'm going to move that one so I at least have one. Okay, now on your other squares, you'll have 4 of your smaller light colored, and those we want to cut diagonally once. You'll create 2 nice stacks. And your other square that was the same size as the hourglass ones, this time we're going to cut this one twice. This is one of many techniques for making your flying geese. There are lots of them out there, but on this particular pattern, this is our technique. So we cut, we now have part of our geese, the darker part. When I sew them together, we need to have our piece here, okay? So I actually line up on the bottom and let the tail hang over the top. And you need that little tail, because if you don't, you basically lose your seam allowance and your flying geese get smaller and smaller on you. So line up. Do one more. And I just kind of go through, I get it lined up, and then once I know where my 2 pieces go, get them put together, and I sew one after the other. We'll stop there because I only need one to do our little square. Oops. There we go. Now we want to press, and you want the seam allowance this time going outward towards the smaller triangle. So inside the bigger one, that's the look that you want, and the reason for that is it will create less bulk up here at the top. We'll add one more, and that'll give us enough pieces to put our block together. And yes, it's okay, that's going to hang over, because the important line is to be straight here and on that corner. Get it in there. Crossed. Again, we'll press this one open now. Trim our dog ears. And in this time, I just kind of trim those across the top. Get rid of the rest of them. Now we'll put our little block together. And all 4 blocks are done exactly the same. The reason that it gets that neat look is they each get a 1/4 turn when we sew them together. So you put all your blocks together in that same fashion. So to start, we'll put these 2 together. When I put something like this together, I like to be able to see this X, So I know to cross right there versus sewing it from this side. So I want to see where I'm going. So I kind of line it up across. As I sew, I watch to make sure my needle crosses that X. Because I don't want to lose that little tip that's right there. Sometimes it can't be helped, but like I said, the goal is to try to make it as nice as you can. Okay, once I have those together, I get to put my rectangle on. And the rectangle, I can sew it from either way, but let's see, gotta get that lined up there. Get it lined up, held in place, ready to sew. My piece there. Press again, and now I have one of my 4 blocks put together, ready to make my placemat. Now I'm going to move my cherries because I have the mixed fruit with the orange ready to be sewn together. And I start with my squares. I move my second column over top my first column on my right hand. There's no seams that I need to line up other than this center one. I want to get that one to match. And it looks like I'm just a hair off. You can see I'm going to be just a little 1/4 inch a little long there. But I want to make sure that my point in the center matches. That's my goal. And the same with this one here, except this time I'm going to start with that point. So I want to make sure that that matches. And then I can line up the rest. Actually, that one lines up pretty good. Have them together in the fashion they're supposed to go, so now I can just flip them over. I line up my center and I want to push it the seams one way and the other. Normally the one on the bottom I have going towards me as I'm sewing, and the one at the top goes towards the needle. And we'll get that started. Sometimes I get her started and then I come back and double check to make sure that those two are lined up. Slid just a little bit. So just a little bit. Try to get things hung on to. Okay. Once you have that, go ahead and press it. I'm going to go add the one more piece onto this so I can show you how I finish. And I got that one pressed the wrong direction. But the only part you have to really line up is this very first one. So line up that seam and then towards the bottom. press it till you have it nice and flat. I know I'm on the top, and I'll go back and correct my back side because I want to get you started on finishing it. To finish, I'm actually today using a fairly stiff interfacing, and I have a piece of back cut. So now I'll place my back and my interfacing. I'll center my interfacing on here. This one actually has a little bit of fusible on one side. I like to use a lot of times the one that's fusible on both sides, but this was an extra piece and I thought I'm just going to use it up. So we'll kind of fuse it a little bit. Then the top, place the top on top of that. If your piece is cut a little big, that's okay. This one I happen to cut to size. I'll press these together, even though they're not going to fuse, but I do want them to kind of stick to each other. Pressing will help do that. And after I press, I'll stick a couple of pins in because now we're going to stitch in the ditch. So you can change to your walking foot. If you're comfortable using your regular foot, that's okay. When I first started quilting, I didn't have a walking foot. I used my regular foot, so that doesn't bother me. But changing to your walking foot will make a big difference. What I want you to do next is stitch in the ditch. So you get it pinned, you're together, set your needle there, and just stitch right down. Okay, stitch in the ditch along. And let me see which one of these you might be able to see. Ah, my red one, because I used white. Here's what it'll look like on the back side when you go to stitch. So stitch in the ditch, and that'll hold it together, and it'll take just a little bit of time. And you just do as many straight lines and crosses, whatever, or stitch however you want. But you can stitch in the ditch. After you have it quilted, trim and bind. And if you don't remember how to bind, just refer to one of our binding techniques that we have on the YouTube video. So that is my springtime placemat that we actually made with our fabric jewels that are already cut to 8.5-inch squares, and this pack will make 4 placemats, and then you just buy what you need for a backing and your binding. Thank you again for watching us here at Fabric Junction, and I hope you enjoy our springtime placemat, and check out our website at junctionfabric.com. Thank you.